This is my Turnip28 army, built and primed. I'm just going to showcase each of the items that I've got all ready to go, and then we're going to do a quick series on how I'm painting each one. I'm using the Feast of the Charibyss for my cult, and this is my Chaff. So as we've got variable base size, I'm going to go with the larger of the base sizes. He does come over the base, but obviously this is just for show. The crab doesn't have any benefit in game, but I've gone for this sort of desiccated corpse, which was a 3D print that I've scaled down. So it's highly mutated, barely able to even swing that sword in all likelihood, with a weird cone head, going with some strange Dark Souls vibes in there as well. He's the Knight of the Charibyss, and I imagine the crab does most of the work, but he's going to be my leader. I've got 2 scuttlers in the list, so with the rules changes and updates, I can have 2 scuttlers in the list, and the first one here with a big crab arm. Basically we've got these 2 3D printed crabs, and I've managed to get a load of little bits and bobs that I've added. So we've got loads of the mushrooms and stuff that we stuck in. We've got tufts coming out of the carapace. We've got these normal chaps, so I'll go into more detail on what I've done with my fodder, and well, I've just glued them to the backs. The howders were again 3D printed pieces that I've scaled down to fit. I've used this same piece for this one and for this one here, and then we've used a different howder piece for this back scuttler here. I think these were from a Vesna Sculpts print that I've adjusted. So this is another one of the crabs. Again, lots of flags. I'm trying to go off the artwork where I could. This was before the official crab miniature was released, but I think I'll probably paint up another one with that official model at a later date once my army's complete. I just want to expand to it. So that's those 2. I then have my 2 snobs, which are the other 2 leaders. So we've got my Chaff and the 2 snobs. So I've gone for, like, I'm calling him the crab speaker or the shell speaker, and I saw him, I think this is a GCT Studios Bushido miniature. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, I want this, because he's got this giant huge like hermit crab thing. He's a bit mutated, kind of like all those vibes. Got a couple of the roots coming out of the back here with the tufts, and we're going to be using some pour resin as well on the base. There's going to be pour resin used throughout each of these models, just to add that swampy sort of feel to them. He's quite heavy because this is a metal model. And then we've got another 3D printed model. This is the Death Knight. It's a Z-Kino miniature that I've scaled down and then swapped his weapons, because both of them, when I scaled the weapons down, snapped. So I've had to use 2 weapons that I've just had randomly, which I quite like the look of. So we'll go with those. Obviously we're using the ferns and the tufts and stuff, and we're going to have some pour resin again, submerging part of the base there. Next we've got my unit of fodder. I've gone quite fodder light on this list, but I will likely add another unit of melee fodder later down the line. I'm trying to reuse a lot of my old miniatures. So I had a Bretonian army that was sat there doing nothing, it was unpainted, so I ended up chopping the heads or the bodies off, and using what spare sprues and stuff I had from other units to make these. So they're with this medieval vibe. They've got like a little bit of armor with like the tunic look, and then using the Turnip28 printing pack to give that vibe. I do quite like this sort of style. It sort of lends itself to the Knights of the Charibyss, which is the faction name that I'm going to go with these, and when they're painted up I think they're going to look pretty cool. going to look a bit different. I think I'm going to do another faction later down a line, which will be a bit more traditional. I'm also thinking of doing some other stuff, but we'll cover that in a different video. So here you go. So this is Chaff. They're armed with the bows or crossbows in this instance, instead of muskets, just to try that out really. I think they get to fire back indefinitely, which is quite good, but they hit slightly less hard. But I do quite like how these have all come out. Lots of the rocky, and we're going to add a lot of mud to this as well, with the crossbows. I did want to add some backpacks or some other paraphernalia to them, but I'm keeping them quite basic to start me off with my first Turnip28 army. I put most of the time into the crabs, to be fair. So here we go, we've got a unit of brutes. So I've gone with brutes with like two-handed weapons. Got the frogmouth helm set that I've then chopped and customized with a body set from some bits that I'd had lying around from my foot knights that I was going to use for some Bretonian, like a Bretonian heavy infantry unit, which I then turned into a Kings of War unit. So I had loads of these lying around, come with all these cool looking pole arms and axes, and two-handed swords and stuff like this. And then the frogmouth helms are just really cool. I particularly like this guy. I think he's going to be the squad leader with all the spikes and stuff, looking pretty sweet. Again, this you get 12 different head and body options with the frogmouth option. There's a nice big two-handed axe wielder, and then we've got a little spear. Another halberd chap. There you go. So that's a unit of 5 brutes. And then my last unit that I've made is a unit of Chaff. So Chaff are like slightly more specialist skirmish fodder. So, and I actually tried my hand at some green stuffing for these. I've tried to add more like foliage and bits of terrain and stuff on these. They're on a 40mm base. So this, actually no, sorry, this is a 32mm base, so it's the slightly larger base size than the fodder are meant to be on, which is all good. But just adding a little bit of foliage just to make them look a little bit more like skirmishers, and then adding little bits of green stuff. I'm not the best with green stuff, so they're looking a bit raggedy, but it's fine. Just adding some like wraps around, give them a little backpack with the green stuff. Just to add additional elements there. They've got some of the original helmets, so instead of using the normal Turnip28 helmets, I've tried to go with some different options. So these are the actual original helmets, and then green stuffed around like a scarf thing. Give them a bit of cover. They can look a little bit like they're trying to hide, and I'll paint them slightly differently as well. But I'm really happy with how these guys came out, especially with the basings. I've like really mounded up to make the terrain be a big part to play, like the hiding and skulking amongst some difficult terrain, which is kind of what the Chaff are there for. So there you go, there's the army. I'll be doing a series on painting these minis, and we're going to start off with one of the scuttlers. So the first video is going to be on the crab. I'm going to detail my painting and showcase what I do, and all the process. So catch me soon for the next video.